Here we go. Okay, we are now live, and welcome to Equine Voices, an interview with Kathy. Kathy will shortly be on, and she's going to introduce herself and explain what it is she does and how she works. So, Kathy Price, when you're ready, there you go. Welcome.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to this. Yes, so start at the very beginning. My name's Kathy Price. I live in the hills of West Wales, Mid Wales, just beside the Cambrian Hills. I've got 2 grown children, a grandson, and I've been livestock farming for 30 odd years, been living in this wonderful place. The reason I'm here with Ronnie today is because I do an energy modality, which I call point of balance. And I'm here really to talk about that, thanks to Ronnie's kind invitation. So I'll go back a bit first and say where I come from and how I got here. I grew up in London, in Wembley, not far from Wembley Stadium. And apparently from the moment I could speak, all I ever wanted was a horse. Now, we were in suburban Wembley. Mum and Dad didn't know one end of a horse from another. So quite where that came from, we're not sure. Apparently Dad's uncle back in Poland, because Dad was first generation Pole, he was mad on horses. So we have 2 theories actually as to why I like horses. One is that I'm a throwback to my uncle. And the other one, well, my great uncle, in fact, the other one, which my mother prefers, is apparently when I was tiny, sort of about 2, we were on Paynton Beach down in Devon, and I was on a donkey and I fell off a donkey, and my mum swears I hit my head, and that was that. So it's nature or not nurtured, whichever way you want. So I always forgot to ask my mum exactly how did I come to fall off that donkey. But anyway, here I am, horse mad. Always have been. All I ever wanted was a horse. All I ever read about was a horse. I think I was the age of 10 when I started riding. Dad, God bless him, gave up his Saturday afternoons to take me to a local riding stable in Stanmore, Suzanne's, which I don't think is no longer there. And I'll always remember my first ride was on a horse called Willem. Anyway, bless Dad. He didn't have much free time, and so one day he sort of turned to me in the car and said, "Tinker, darling," he said, "can you not take up another sport like running?" Because it was just so time consuming and quite expensive. And I just looked blankly at him and sort of said no. So anyway, my horse passion continued all the way through my school years, and I had more lessons. We managed to work that out a bit better with a friend of mine. And I used to spend every summer down in Wales, because that's when I was living in London, with my grandmother and my aunts, and I'd work on stables and I'd go out to farms and ride horses. So that's sort of where I got my experience. I didn't really get my first horse until I was 32. I had my 2 kids. They were 2 and 3. I'd married my husband. We were livestock farming, and fair play, he bought me a horse, and she was called Midnight Maiden. And she was a cross Cleveland Bay called thoroughbred. However, the thoroughbred was quite well hidden. The Cleveland Bay was very prominent. And Cleveland Bays have in their breed standard the word intractable, i.e. stubborn, is actually written in their breed standard. And she was quite true to type, I have to say. And she obviously came to me for a reason, because she just sort of said, no, unless you ask me in the correct manner, I'm not going to do anything. And we had many a frustration between us. But it led me to go looking for different things to do, to try with her. I tried Western and all sorts, and none of it. I found Pirelli, which I found really helpful. And I did the 2 levels. Well, I was working on to the 2nd level. And then a friend of mine, who'd recently moved, said back at her old place, they were holding a clinic with a clinician who'd come over from America. He was Australian, and his name was Len Judd. Never heard of him. And this was the first time that I took Midnight away anywhere. And it was the most perfect place. It was their own property, and there was no phone signal. So nobody could ring me up asking what injection a certain cow needed or anything like that. And it was the most perfect weather as well. But that's when the weird stuff happened. So to begin with, let me just say that also I'm a scientist by training. So I did science A levels. I did a science degree in zoology. And I've always been, unless you can measure it, replicate it and explain it, please don't bother me, because I wasn't going to go there. I had no interest. And that's my mindset. However, I went to this horse clinic and I do not know what happened. The way I describe it is a spiritual experience, because the way that Len worked with the horses, I think it's much more prevalent now. It was very energetic in the sense he was feeling what the horses were feeling, and he'd tell us about, they want this or they want that. And we were all sat there sort of completely, we don't understand what's going on at all, because it wasn't about lift the brain or move the leg. It was all this energetic stuff. And in fact, it started the very first moment I got to the property, because I went to the house and Len's then wife, Nina, answered the door, and she still is 6 foot tall, striking lady, dark skin, beautiful black hair. And she went, "Oh my God, I know you. I've seen you before." And I thought, "No, you don't. I'd reckon, I sort of remember somebody like you." And she was like, Len, come here. We've met her before, haven't we?" And I was, "No, I haven't, honestly." But that was the start of the weirdness. So all through the weekend, it was I was bawling my eyes out most of the time, in that sense of complete wonder and not quite sure what the hell was going on. I came back on the Sunday night, and I had no idea. My brain had sort of reconfigured, and I was in one way lost. I just didn't know what was going on, but in another way intrigued and excited. And one of the things Len had said, I mean, we had many conversations where I kept going, "What are you doing to me? I don't understand." But he said to me one day, he said, during the clinic, he said, "And now the dreams will start." And I thought, okay, right, fair enough. And so I came back home on the Sunday night. And on the Wednesday night, I had such a vivid dream about Len and Nina and the family. The first part was Nina and I walking, collecting lavender. The second part we were in a cafe, and there were Len and Nina, and there were 4 children, 3 boys and a girl, and they had a sort of a Far Eastern feel to them. Now, Len and Nina had made a joke that they only had 2 boys, and that was that. I was so intrigued. This was so clear, this dream, that I rang. They were still down in Wales, and where the clinic was held. And so I rang them up, and I didn't lead them at all. I said to Nina, "Does lavender have any significance to you?" And she went, "Yeah." She said, "It's my favorite scent, and I literally have been out buying some today." And so that was when my hackles started rising. It's like, oh my God, okay. So I said, "Well, that was my dream, that I was picking lavender with you." She said, "Yeah, that makes sense," because they were far more into this than I was. And then I said, "Okay." Then we were having dinner, and there were 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. And there was they're Far Eastern. And she went, "Well, yeah, I was previously married and I had 2 boys there. So I have got 3 boys and a girl." And she said, "My family comes from Indonesia." And so
Wow.
I honestly thought she was Hispanic or Mexican, because she was, they lived in California, and she was that beautiful, tall, striking color and dark hair. And so anyway, that was just one of the many weird things. And looking back, I don't know, was it an opening up to a different energy? Who knows? But because of that experience, I then went searching for so much stuff. And one day, which was quite soon after getting back, I was in the local bookshop browsing all of the spirituality and self-help books and things like that. And I picked a book up on Reiki, which I had no idea what it was. Okay, I just didn't know. And it fell open, on a page that described what can happen when you have the attunement with Reiki. And basically everything they described about the wonderful feelings and all of the energetic stuff they said could happen after an attunement was what had happened to me over that weekend with Len and Nina. So I just wanted more. And as complete self-interest, I thought, okay, I'll just try and find a Reiki master and start doing Reiki. As I said, knowing nothing, I read up about it then. I found somebody local. I did level 1 and had some quite interesting things happening during the attunement. And then I began using Reiki and really, really enjoyed it. And then I subsequently did level 2 and 3 and became Reiki master. But I never actually taught anyone to use Reiki. I'd use it, and at the time, I was doing a job which I actually still do, another little job, which is go to farmers to teach them how to use IT at a very basic level. And I'd go on farm and I'd tell them, I do this stuff called Reiki. And the number of farmers that go, oh, Judy, now look, I've got a bad shoulder. Do you think you can help that? And so I used to I'd tell anyone. I didn't give a toss, and I'd work with anyone. And I had some great experiences. But I suppose then, if I'm truthful, I got lazy because Reiki has symbols and there's words. And I totally accepted all of that. But I kept thinking, oh, isn't there another way? Isn't there? And the search kept going. I was reading books then non-stop on spirituality, on consciousness, on quantum physics, anything I could lay my hands on. I mean, I should have owned Amazon by the time I'd finished. And I just kept plowing through. And then I did another modality called quantum touch. That was amazing. I really enjoyed that one. But the thing that got me, and it may have been the way that the instructor, the person teaching us sort of said it, was that, oh, you've done level 1 now. Now, when you get to level 2, she sort of said, you won't need level 1. And I thought, oh, I want the good stuff first. And I know, obviously, you've got to go through a process, but it just stuck in my brain. I thought, nah, okay. And so I went searching again. And then I found something called reconnective healing. And that has been the basis of my work. That's been the thing that really led me into where I wanted to be, because it has no structure. There's no ritual in it at all. Once you've trained in it, inverted commas, which took 2 or 3 sessions over weekends and things like that, but once you've done the different levels, that's it. It's finished. Go do the work. And I always say you don't have to be wearing your purple knickers when you go and to work with someone, because as we were told there, that if you haven't got your purple knickers on, you can't go and do it. So I just loved it that there was absolutely no ritual. You just be, and you just do, and you pass stuff on. So I practiced that for, goodness, I know, 7 or 8 years. And I did every level that you could do. I became a certified practitioner. And, I went back then, and I think it was about 2015, they said that everybody had to go back to be re-registered. You had to attend a sort of refresher course, which I could see in one way. But there was one part of it that I really disagreed with the way they did it. And it made sure that, no, you're no good right now. You've got to go and re-certify and this, that, and the other. And I was just, it didn't fit with me. And so what I did was think, okay, I'm not going to label myself as a practitioner of anything. I feel that I'm okay enough in myself. I'm going to be me, Kathy Price. And so that's when I switched to calling my work Point of Balance, which I'll sort of delve into in a minute. And I'm Kathy Price, and I'm the sum of everything that I've done. Farmer's wife, scientist, total skeptic, plus all the modalities, plus the horses, and this is me. And so I was I can't remember how or where Point of Balance actually came to me, but it was the sort of thoughts behind it is that when the system is in balance at every level, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, that's the optimum place to be. That's when it's it can heal itself, but it's also healthy. You've got all the potential, the system can grow, and you know, I'm talking whether it's a plant, an animal, or a person, though that applies to everything. So that's what my work became, point of balance. And that's my sort of working thesis behind it, is that systems want to be in balance. If you think of a biological system with a homeostasis where your temperature is controlled, we either shiver or we sweat, sugar levels are controlled. Everything is about maintaining everything at the optimum level for that system, whatever it might be. So that's where my sort of point of balance, the name of my work, came from, and where I stepped into about 5 or 6 years ago now. And since then, it's been it's been a mad journey again.
It's evolved.
It has. I mean, totally. When I started doing it, distance work was sort of too much for my brain to take on. You know, if I was in person with a horse or a person or a dog, I could cope with that, you know, having done the Reiki and everything. And I'd been taught about distance work. You know, it wasn't sort of though I hadn't met it, but there was something in me that's going, no, 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 no. And I maybe worked with a few people, but slowly my work began to, like you said, Ronnie, evolve, and more distance work became available. And I started to work distance a lot. And the results were, you know, exactly the same, that people would feel stuff, or the horses would do stuff, and then change would happen. And that's when I really stepped into sort of what I do now, and the explanation that I sort of put in my own brain on how it actually works. So point of balance, there are 2 parts to it. I do sessions, which are people get in touch with me, and these can be in person or distance, and it may be themselves or it may be their horse. And I work with them. So let's talk distance at the moment, because that's all there is. So we have sessions, and it's very free form. And the idea behind it is that I'm introducing, I'm introducing energy and frequencies to the other system I'm working with, for it to find its way back to balance. Okay. And I have to make a very clear distinction here. I am not a healer. For me, the only thing that is the healer is the system you're working with. And I don't care whether you're looking at allopathic medicine, you know, modern medicine, complementary medicine. It doesn't matter, because we know with modern medicine, there is no guarantee, and that one tablet will not cure everybody. So everybody's headache, you know, you haven't got one particular active ingredient that will help everybody. And the reason being, we're all different. And I believe it's the same with complementary medicine. What I do might be appropriate to somebody, but somebody else may do Reiki or Qigong or, you know, acupuncture, acupressure, whatever. Everything has its place and everything has its meaning. So for me, it shows that the only healer is the actual system, because you can put whatever you like in it, but you cannot guarantee that's going to work. But when the system gets the right information, whether it's a medicine, you know, a procedure, complementary medicine, alternative, whatever, then it can move. But nobody can make that system move. So that's the way I look at it, is that the system I work with is the healer. And my job is to facilitate the actual system finding its way back to balance, reminding it where balance is. And a sort of an analogy I use is that I can open the door to show the system where balance lies, but it's not my job to open the door with my left hand and push them through with the right. It's not how it works. They've got to step through freely. And so that's the sort of the theory, the working practice behind it. And it's exactly the same whether I'm working with a person or a dog or a horse. And one of the common questions I get asked is, do you have to believe in it? No, because a horse has no idea what I'm doing. You know, it's not as though they have to go, oh, right, she's trained for so many years now, she's going to come and work energetically. And therefore, I have a chance that I might get better. they just pick up what I'm doing, and if it's appropriate, they shift. So the belief aspect doesn't have to be there. I will say that if somebody is completely attached to their illness, and this again, no judgment, then it might not work for that reason, because the brain is having the effect, the thought is having the effect on the body, and they won't accept and they won't move. And I can't do anything about that. That's not a thing. But if somebody doesn't, just thinks, oh, God's sake, there's some woman going to do some woo-woo on me, but they're quite open to just sitting still in a chair for half an hour, absolutely perfect. I love working with skeptics, actually. I absolutely love it, because it's when something happens, they go, oh, hello, didn't expect that. And the other thing is that with people in particular, they can ask to come and have a session with me, and they may have a particular reason for coming to me. But because this is, I prefer to know nothing about the horse or the person, because then this doesn't get in the way. I think I've trained myself well enough now. It doesn't matter if I had a full medical history. I always come from the point of, I know nothing, because I don't know what that system has been through. I don't know what all of the emotional aspects have been. I don't know, did they tweak themselves in the field like a horse and then they're holding on to it or whatever? I have no idea. So I've lost the train of thought then, but where I work is that somebody can come to me with a particular problem, and when they have the session, that problem might have resolved itself, and something else that they'd forgotten about. And I've had this a few times where I'd worked in person. In particular, there was a gentleman came to, I've got a holiday bungalow on the farm, and quite often people who come there have sessions. And this was a friend. They'd been a few times and I knew them well. And he walked in and he was staggering. His back was so bad. I didn't know anything until they got there. And it was like, right, okay, let's just give you a session as soon as possible. And he lay absolutely still on his bed. I mean, he did not move a muscle. And then towards the end of the session, I saw his nose twitching a bit, and that was it. And this was, one of the remarkable sessions, because he literally got up and the pain had gone, and he'd been for scans and MRIs and, had been in a lot of pain, but something obviously shifted. And I said to him, and he was amazed that he'd managed to lie still that long, because normally, with the pain in his back, he had to be moving. He couldn't sit for long, he couldn't lie for long, he couldn't stand for long. But he just lay, it's like he's not moving at all. And I said to him, Tom, the only thing I saw move was your nose. And he sort of took this big, deep breath in, and he said, yeah, I've had sinus problems for a couple of years, and that appears to have shifted, because he could suddenly breathe clearly. So again, everything that happens in that respect for me is the universe chucking something at me and going, there you go, just take note, because it knows I'm such a skeptic. It really does. And then with the horses, it's exactly the same sort of thing. I mean, I've worked obviously a lot in with them, not distance. So you go into a horse, and sometimes they will react quite strongly. I don't touch, I don't put hands on. I stand sometimes 4 or 6 feet away and literally just have my hands sort of hanging almost at my side. Sometimes I move around, because you can feel different things, but I don't zone in on them. And the reason I don't zone in, this was something I was taught in one of the modalities, is that I used to use a pendulum when I did Reiki, and I'd scan people. I thought it was great fun. And I can remember that I picked stuff up that they didn't know they'd hurt themselves. One was a farmer, and as I was scanning down his arm, the pendulum started going, and I said, is there a problem? He said, no, there's nothing. I thought, fair enough. Anyway, I did the Reiki session, and the next morning I had a message from his wife saying, Kathy, you're a witch. When he went to bed that night, he took his jumper off, and there was a big bruise just starting to form. And when he saw that, he remembered that he'd actually banged himself, through the course of, I think a ram had hit him or something, I can't remember. But anyway, but the way that other way of looking at it is, when I pick that change of energy up, does it mean that change of energy shouldn't be there? And the way to look at it is that, say you twist your knee and your knee swells up. If you look at it in its purest form, your body has done that to stabilize that joint, so you can't move it and you can't twist it. And it's bringing more blood and lymph and everything to the area to help it heal. So is it right to try and move that away? And this is what I say now, I'm completely open. I don't know. So I don't go scanning now. I know the system knows what it needs to do, and I trust in that. So when I work with a horse, I might walk in and I just stand in the corner. And some horses react quite strongly to the frequencies, in that they will lick and chew and yawn and stretch. And I mean, some of them do amazing stretches. It's so cool to watch. Others, there was one in particular that I went to see, local to me, and she said that the horse was completely ridden with anxiety. It was in a big American barn, and anytime another horse went out, it would be circling in its box, and it just would not relax, and they hadn't seen it sleep or anything. So I went in there, and it was like I didn't exist. I mean, I nearly got wiped out a number of times because other horses were moving around. This horse was going around the box like it was going out of fashion. And I remember walking away and went, yeah, well, that worked well, didn't it? But then I had a phone call the next day to say they'd found him fast asleep overnight and he'd changed. He'd released the anxiety. So again, for me, that was a good, okay, don't think you know everything. If they reacted like that, doesn't mean to say that the frequencies, the energy haven't done their work. And so, I know that everything that happens to me, every session I learn something, I feel, and it's all to take it up there and just, shut this up and just get on with it.
Yeah.
Say again.
To allow it. So it's having expectations and an outcome is the hardest thing to let go of. Yeah. Because that blocks what's flowing as well. That can make it block. And yeah, that is one of the hardest. I think, especially when you're first doing things, because you want it to work, and and it's not always about proving to somebody, oh, look at me, look what I can do. It's because you actually want to visually know that you're doing what you should be doing. Yeah. So you're the feedback sometimes. But I found letting go of that expectation is one of the biggest things, and then it's easier to flow.
It's not being attached. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So when you had when you had midnight and you went to this clinic, do you still keep in touch with them?
Yes, I'm in touch with Len and Nina. I mean, it's sporadic, but I actually saw a post about Len the other day, and I can't remember anybody. I must have. Oh, there were a few people that were on the clinic that but I always. That I'm still in touch with, but for sort of Len and Nina, I always, say to them, thank you, because it was because of you and because of what happened at that clinic that I'm on this path now, which is one that I would never have thought of.
So did you know that they do Reiki? So you didn't go in with that, but was it their energy? So when
it's their energy, they didn't do Reiki or anything. I mean, they were martial artists. Yeah. But it was their whole, Len would look at a horse. Yeah, exactly. And he'd say that, I mean, oh goodness, I mean, something happened. It was the whole environment. And I think the whole weekend where I was just still and quiet, and I didn't have to run around farming or looking after kids. So it just puts you in a different mindset. But then, because he did demonstration on the Friday night, the clinic was on the Saturday and Sunday, and the friend that I went down with, we were sat there and we didn't know what the hell was going on, because he was talking all about energy, and it was our first real introduction to that intensity
terminology.
Absolutely. And he'd say, oh, the horse is picking up this and that and whatever, and we'd be going, oh my god. And then we went to the actual the actual clinic the next day, and the pair of us were actually shaking. We were physically shaking as we were going there because we did not know what the hell we were letting ourselves in for. As it turned out, best experience of my life, but we weren't quite sure as we were going there. So yeah, I mean, that was the sort of very start of it. But
perhaps so the work that you do, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, and this came through as you were talking, but the work that you're doing, perhaps that's what came through them to you. So that connected perhaps that's what happened to you. You had a clearing from their energy, and it got to where it needed to be a catalyst for what's going on now.
Oh, totally. I think you're absolutely on it there.
Yeah.
It's because it removed the brain fog, if you like.
Yeah.
For me, I began to see reality as it really was. My scientific brain up to that moment had thought it knew what was going on. And, if you give me something that I don't understand, we'll just go away. Thank you very much. Whereas I stepped into a different place where it was, okay, just bring it on. Every weirdness that you can throw at me, I want to know about now because I know it's true. And I had so many weird experiences in those years soon after that through the stuff that I was studying, just reading books and practicing and everyone that I had, I just say, it was like the universe going, okay, now you've experienced that, move on. But it was almost like slap round the face. Look, yeah, that's true. That actually happens. Now move on. Now move on. So yeah, that was the that was a pivotal moment, without a doubt.
But if you think about it, Kathy, because of your background, because you are scientific, so when you talk to people now, you because sometimes you can come at this, and if that's all you believe and you put it in a certain terminology, people go, no, that's not my sort of thing. But where you come from, and I have friends that do, work in a similar way, they can explain, this is how it works, this is energy, and I can explain it in a scientific form or a spiritual form or a new age form, however you want to describe it. And in the people that attracted certain modules will go to that explanation. They will be attracted to that explanation, and they'll go, yeah, I can take that, but I can't take that one. So because of your background, you have got a wider audience that you can connect to.
Yes, I think it's true. And I think the fact that I am a skeptic, that I won't dive in, that somebody says something, however wonderful it might seem, I'm immediately, okay, really, right, okay, let me just ponder on that one a minute. Thank you very much. But yeah, I think you're right that I have this want for the scientific explanation. And when I started, I think it was in Reconnective Healing, I was given a really good sentence because I could not actually explain it then. I had no idea how to start explaining it scientifically, even though they were doing scientific experiments. They were working on DNA and they were checking what happens to practitioners when they work on all sorts. So there was a lot of science going on in the background, but I hadn't got it and I didn't know it. And there was a lady called Helen Parsons, and she said to me, let your experience be your truth. And I thought, thank you. Because if I step into that, all of this amazing stuff that's happened to me, I know it has happened. I haven't imagined it. I've worked physically to that point. It's been a physical thing to get there, even though it's an energetic modality. I've been through a process. I've seen what happens. I've seen horses change. I've seen people change, and I'm not touching them or anything. It's working in the field. And so my experience is my truth. And I'm quite happy with that now. I just sit with that. And I'm never trying to persuade people to believe me because everybody has their own experience. And I just say what I feel and what I think, in the terms of explanation. And if it fits with people, fantastic. If it doesn't, that's absolutely fantastic as well, because I know where I've come from. That if someone has sat preaching at me when I wasn't ready to listen, and I'm also not attached to the information I've got, because tomorrow I might learn something completely different, another piece of evidence or information that actually fits better than where I am now.
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy to say, oh, hello, that's different. Yeah. You know, I'm sure you've had that experience that when you hear something that's true, you actually get a physical reaction. You know, the prickles down the back of the neck
Yes,
and the hair
yeah.
standing on end. And I mean, I'll go the whole hog sometimes and literally burst out crying because it's just so, oh my God, there's the truth. And so, you know, that obviously makes a difference. But it's when I hear, you know, different terminology or different explanation. I mean, what I'll get onto now is the science that I see behind it is, and Nassim Haramein, who I only discovered about a month ago, who's a scientist in 2012, came with the terminology of the unified vacuum field. What he says to me makes so much sense, and nobody's disproved it yet. I mean, he says that because he's put a new theory through, there's obviously going to be naysayers. And he told a lovely story, which I'd never heard before, about when the Wright brothers first flew an aeroplane. There were physicists writing papers for several years afterwards saying that was not physically possible, even though they'd done it, and that it was all a hoax. And I mean, another example is Bruce Lipton, when he discovered the science of epigenetics in the 1970s. And when he presented what he'd found to, you know, his compatriots and his peers, he was called a heretic because he was saying that the DNA was not the controlling mechanism. You know, the dogma was the genetic determinism. If you had that gene, you were going to have whatever that gene told it, you know, coded for. But of course, we now know that we have gene expression, and that is affected by the epigenetics, the effect of the environment on the expression of the gene. And now with that is taught in schools at A level. It's taken 40 years, but it's got there. So, you know, it's a fact that new ideas are very often shunned when they go against an old paradigm. But you know, I try and be really open and say, okay, when the new stuff comes, I'm listening, and we'll see where it goes from that. But yeah. So yeah, that's the sort of my mindset as far as that's concerned.
Fascinating. I'm just smiling because I can hear the sheep barring in the background. I can hear this little bar.
There's quite a few. It's gone a bit dark now. I mean, how I get any work done, because I've got a window that looks straight out into the hills, and they're all in the field behind the house, and they get up to such antics. Especially there's a bit of a bank here, but opposite the window, and I'm just sat there watching them for hours. I don't get anything done.
It's just faint. It's not. You know, it's not annoying. I'm just smiling because I can hear the little bar. But I found that because when you talked about Reiki. So I've actually done my Reiki master many years ago, but I didn't do it to be a Reiki master. I just did it because I did the first one, and I decided that I wanted to open up more. I wanted to, I wanted to do it. So I did my first degree Reiki, and I found that fascinating because I had more experience with practicing on friends. And I had a friend's husband, and I said, "Oh, can I practice on you?" And he said. And he was a bit of a skeptic, and they were a lovely couple. Anyway, I said, just lie down on the floor. I'm going to do a scan. Anyway, he was going, I can feel things. I was going, where can you feel things? Because I don't want to say.
Oh, yeah.
And his wife was laughing. She was on the sofa laughing her head off. And she said, can you feel things? He went, yes, I'm not sure about this. And but it was lovely because you could definitely from not feeling to that it was very definite. I did my second degree, and again that was okay. And then I did those two with the same lady, a lady called Susanna Bellini, I think it was from York. Then I did my my master's, and it was with a couple, and there was two lovely ladies from I think they were from Wales. And they were so excited, and they was going, "Oh, we're so excited! This is our second time." And I was going, "What do you mean it's your second time? You've done this before?" And they was like, "Yeah." I says, "What, you're already a master?" I went, "Yes," but we were so excited to do it again. I was thinking, why would you pay to do something?
You do it again? Yeah.
But they were so sweet, and they were sat there, and I remember sitting there with Olin Rowe, and there was the tuning us with the symbols and that.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, what do you see when you do, how does it, what do you see? And the lady said, oh, I see like wiggly worms. She says, and if they're very, very busy, I know that the person's going to do a lot with the Reiki. She says, but if they're sleepy, she said, I know they're not going to do that much with the Reiki. And I felt like she was talking to me. And I thought she was looking at me thinking, mine is sleepy. I'm not going to do a lot with it.
Yeah.
And I did. And I thought she's talking about me. And I had no idea why, because she wasn't looking at me, but I felt it was me. Now, whether that was my negative head, but as it turns out, I haven't, because I did try to do it. And I got posters done and I got leaflets done and I went around. I thought, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it. But my heart wasn't in it. And I had a few people and I thought, actually, it's not me. I don't want to be in a room and do people.
Yeah.
So I didn't bother. But yeah, so I've done it. But I'm like you. I don't want to have to do the symbols. I don't want to have to think, right, I must be in this place. And this is no disrespect to people that do this.
Exactly.
And I know some amazing people. But for me personally, it wasn't what I wanted to do, which makes sense now, because if I went to see a horse and started doing all this, the owners would probably throw me out. But they don't mind me talking to the horses. So I didn't use it. I didn't use it.
They don't like that, but the fact you talk to them is absolutely fine.
So it made sense, and it was probably because I wasn't going to go that way. But it did it, it served its purpose, whatever that is. And I don't know what that is, but it doesn't matter to me. I just felt I needed to do it, and I did it. So that was interesting when you were talking about that. I was thinking that was like
it's very similar, because that was my entry into the world of energetic modalities, and it was perfect for me at the time. But it was as I became aware of myself and what it was, that just like you, it was no, this isn't what I'm looking for, and the search carried on, and sort of led me to the other stuff, because the other part of my work, that we have the sessions, which are what I call very free form. So I'm just connecting with the energy, and my intention is that the system I'm working with finds its way back to balance, however that might be, because I don't know, but the system does. And then the other part of my work that I do is something I've called the awakening, and this is a once in a lifetime I was going to say treatment, but it isn't. Process. Thank you. Brain went completely dead then. Yes, process is a great word. And basically, this is much more structured, because it is working on particular points and lines of the body, which a lot of which do correlate with acupuncture points and meridians. And the sort of idea behind this is about opening the system up even more to connect with the energy around it. And it's when you have a session, there is an element of the awakening in it, and when you have the awakening, there's an element of, I shall call it the healing, the balancing part. It's like a Venn diagram that you've got a bit in the middle that crosses over both. But as I said, the awakening is carried out over 2 days, 2 sessions, about 24 hours apart. It's that's not doesn't have to be that exact, but generally I do it at the same time, 2 days running, and it is just about working in particular places, and it's the activation, the awakening of these points and lines, so that the system I'm working with, and I only do it on people, my feeling is that the horses and dogs, they don't need it, because they're awakened anyway. This is something almost we've lost and we need to regain. And so it reawakens everything. And then you find that ideas come to you, you realize what's important, you step into different places, you think, different jobs, you get a lot more input, if you like. And I know it's been really transformational for some people. When I had what was the sort of equivalent of it before, it was a mad process, because I'd been waiting to have this. I couldn't find a practitioner to have it for ages. And then when it did happen, it was like the universe again was going, wham, bam, there you go. Now you know what that's about. It's like, okay, fine, thank you. But yeah, so those are the two parts of the sessions, which are free form and mainly about balancing, helping the system balance itself. And then the awakening, which is about, just as the name suggests, awakening the connection. And the work that I've sort of found now with Nassim Haramein and others is we are all connected, whatever. There is no disconnect. There's no edge of me and beginning of the chair, because we're just energy vibrating at a different level, at a different frequency, a different vibration. And his work, the one part of his work that I really loved is he says that there are these minute Planck oscillations in the field, and they're so tiny that we won't ever feel them. They're far too small, and they're the sort of fundamental energy of the universe. And his analogy is that if you think of a bath of water with the plug in, everything is very still. It's random motion. All the water molecules are just moving everywhere, but it's very still. You pull the plug out, as the water goes down the plug hole, the water becomes ordered. It becomes structured. It becomes a vortex. And that's his sort of analogy for what happens to form matter, because we are an atom of us, of anything, is 99.99999% space. There's nothing in it. There's no matter. It's vibrating energy. And so his theory behind how matter is formed from the universe, from the field that surrounds us and connects everything, is that gravitational forces, it bends it, and it, if you like, forms a vortex. So when you see any matter, it's the gravitational force that actually forms us. Now, I know it's far beyond my ability to explain it. I understand the and in most of the explanations, but it makes sense to me that in that you have a field where everything is connected and the matter is formed by the gravitational force. And I love that, because it means that the energy and the information is coming from the field to create the matter, which is you and I and the horses and the tables and the trees and everything else. But then if you think of a vortex, there's an exit of the energy as well. And so everything we pick up in our lifetime, in our experience, is fed back into that energy of the universe and then goes back out into the universe. And they say that spirituality is science we've never understood. And if you think of a lot of the ancient texts and the ancient religions, they always talk about looking inside to find the answers. And this ties in beautifully, because if you think you are made up of the universe, and Haramein goes on to explain how the mass of the universe can be contained within a proton, and this is where my brain really starts. You're looking at a holographic universe, so that we contain the information of the universe, but we're adding to it all the time. And for me, that's the connection part, how I can work. There is no time distance, that, we're all here at the same moment. And my intention, my thought process to say, okay, I'm going to connect with Ronnie, that's all that's needed. It's that intention. And then the connection is there. And I mean, Ronnie, in your work, you obviously, do the same sort of thing, in that you work distance, you've done it for me, that there's no effort behind it, put it that way. It's almost when you allow, it occurs.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And because I don't question, I'm just checking, because there's a few, I don't know if people's, somebody sent a message, but it flashed on.
Oh,
to make sure. So for anybody watching this, you can message and say, if you want to ask a question to Kathy, but I haven't, so I've seen people on, but there's nobody actually sending messages. So I hope this is going out okay, but if not because I'll repost it and you can watch it on catch up. So again, if anybody's watching this and they're struggling to participate by sending a message, please don't worry. It might be that they come through afterwards. Sometimes it's a bit of a glitch.
Participate by sending a message. Please don't worry.
Oops, you missed it. You don't need it. So, yeah, so I do apologise if people are trying to ask questions, but please ask a question after the live, and Kathy and myself will get back to you.
Absolutely.
Just want to touch on, as you said, reconnective healing. I have a friend that does that, and she's done it to me, but it's similar to what you said, the training, and she did that, but she actually does her own she does sound therapy, and she channels sound, and again, she doesn't know, she's not in charge of it, it just comes through, and it's the vibration that comes through. So that's two things that we having, well, I don't do it, but we have in common, which is amazing. And I was just trying to think how, because we've only just got in touch with each other.
I know. Feels like
I think it was. I know. I think it was, and I've been listening to I Love Schiller's podcast.
God, don't. No.
And I think somebody's just gone now. I've heard about you on there, but do you want to explain how we connected today, how we are here today after such about 2 weeks? 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
It'd be 3 weeks, maybe 3, because
I think it might be. I mean, I had a period of about a week where literally I was getting message after message of people saying, I don't know why I'm getting in touch with you, but I just felt, oh, hello, Celia. Hello. But yeah, so after this particular week, I think there were 3 people at least who literally said to me, I don't know why I just felt drawn to get in touch, with me, drawn to get in touch with you. And every one of them, you being one, Ronnie, it was like, oh my God, this was so meant to happen. And everyone that did that brought something magical into the mix.
Wow.
And so I just feel that moment, that time frame, then I obviously was in a place where it was, okay, you need some more connections. And then you must have felt, so tell me from your end, because I know you sent me that first email.
Well, it was so my mare Toots, she's come through winter, and I explained a little bit about her to you, didn't I? I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I told you. And she's been struggling to so she had, I'm using the word, so shivers, and she has one leg that she sort of lifts up all the time. And she was struggling in the back end, and she was struggling with this leg to the point that she couldn't actually lift it up with the farrier. So obviously she could walk off, and once she'd almost, take that step, she could walk.
Unstick herself,
yeah. And I was just getting a bit worried, and it's always worse in winter anyway. And she's 20 years old now. So I think, I can't remember what the dots were, but you was floating around in my head sort of. And then I run an online group, and it's a meditation group, a weekly, and we're just friends now, so we meet up. And one of the ladies had posted a picture of her glasses that she'd noticed, and she's very good at seeing signs and things. And I woke up in the morning because she's in the States, and I saw it, and I thought, oh, crikey, it's too early to look at that. I'll have a quick look later. And I said, oh, it looks like diamonds, little diamonds. And there was like 5 little dots on her glasses, so tiny, but it was in a perfect line. And then when I looked later, I looked at him and I thought, it looked like yin and yang. So I said, oh, I think it looks like the yin and yang sign, and it's balance. It's balance. Because we look for messages, and whatever comes along, we don't look for them, but we acknowledge them. So then I was looking at your website, and I looked at the reviews, and then as soon as the reviews came up, there was these symbols in between each review, and I was like, that's the signs. That's the yin and yang signs. And it was, and there was 5, and there was 5 on these classes. And in our group, there's 5 of us in this group, and we yeah, that's another story. And I was like, okay, I'm listening. And then I thought, right, I'm going to message you. And again, I don't think about what's come in, and I just typed out that message saying, I have lots to tell you. I have no idea what they are, but but that's it. And then you got back like straight away, which was like, okay. And then you said, oh, we need to chat. So I said, I'm just going to see my horse. I'll chat on the way. So that's when I pulled over. But I knew as soon as we started talking, it was like, oh, this emotion. So I wasn't crying, but there was a release.
Yeah.
And you said, oh, don't worry, love. I get this all the time. I thought, yeah, I know. So do I. It's fine. I know what it means. So I knew that we had to connect for whatever reason. And then you started talking about your I can't remember if you started talking about your horse, or I can't remember now how it went. Teasel, and then I just passed on a message that came through.
I know, just straight away. It was like, oh my goodness, because I hadn't realised at all from your message that that's what you did. Because you had, that wasn't mentioned. You were talking about tuts and everything, and the fact that, be great if we could get in contact, sort of thing. So when you started doing that, it was just so prophetic, because that's exactly where I've been, and wanting to make sure, long story short, she's had a few issues going on, and it was about sending her to a rehab place locally, which is absolutely perfect place for her. And I just wanted to make sure, that was the right decision. And my feeling inside me was, yes, it was, but I doubt, and go, oh, is it the right tease? Is this where we're meant to go? And then you come along going, woof, like, okay, yeah, this is the right place to go. That's fine. Thank you very much.
But when you said, because there was one bit, it was the end bit to do with your work, wasn't it? And you said, I can take all that. And I was like, really? I was like, okay, because obviously I just looked at your website. I know you've worked with Warwick, and I was thinking, oh, crikey. Because I talk, what you see is what you get. I talk as it comes,
Yeah, you don't filter it.
No. So, and it doesn't matter who the person is, because, and I think that's why I don't care about talking to strangers. It doesn't bother me. I'll go hug a stranger. Obviously not at the minute. But
yes, I'm a big hugger as well.
So for me, it's not a problem to say that. But for somebody that they're thinking, crikey. So when you said that, it was like, oh, but it wasn't the reason that I contacted you. I didn't know what the reason was, but it was Toots was connection. But it, but I do my best to. So when I work intuitively, it's not like I work intuitively and then I go back to my life, do my normal bit, the human. My friend calls it muggle work, which makes me laugh. She calls it, I'm doing my muggle work. But no, so I use it through everything. And even mundane stuff, I'm listening to the feel. I'm listening to the quietness. I'm really using it as much as possible without having to think about it. And now I find that, like, if you get an idea or something happen, I'm thinking, well, okay, where's that going to go? Whereas I don't even do that now. It's okay. I'm just going to do it. Like messages. If I get a message for somebody, I can be driving along. Quite often, I'm driving along. And the name will pop into my head. So if I've connected with an animal, I don't have to be there like you.
No. Yeah.
But they're sort of almost in my computer hard drive. And either the person or the horse will come in. I go, okay, but I'm driving, so I'll just sort of acknowledge it. And then a second time, if I'm doing something else, it comes to me. I'll go, okay, that's the second time I'll acknowledge it. The third time I'll go, okay, I'm paying attention. And if I'm driving, I pull over.
Yeah.
And my phone is amazing because it's quick. And I go, does this mean anything? and I'll either get a phone call, go, oh my God, yes, I was just doing that, or oh yes, I was just thinking this, go right, and then I pass on the rest of the message. And I describe it as like trying to tune into a radio station. There's all these communications going around. We can't see them. And if you're trying to communicate, you're going, okay, am I getting that right? And you're just fine tuning it. And then it's like, okay, I can hear that bit. And then as soon as you acknowledge it, or the person acknowledges it, yeah, I get that bit. The rest flows.
Comes through. Yeah.
It comes through.
Yeah.
So yeah, so me messaging you, I didn't question, oh, why would I want to message you? I think I'm enough. I think it doesn't matter, because if you didn't reply, then that, if it's a dead
That would
end,
be
it's
the
a dead
answer.
end.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I do.
No, I mean, that's so similar to the way I work, because I also say to people, I've worked with Toots now, and they sometimes come into me, I'm just like you, I'm driving along, oh, Toots, hello. And I know that they're taking, having energy from me. I have a friend with a very old dog, and we call it self-service, because every night she appears to sort of go, oh, just have a bit of Kathy now. And then she starts running around the place and getting, so we go, oh, she's on self-service. That's fine, And that's, so I totally understand what you're saying. And it's just with you, you're getting the words and the communication. And for me, it's the connection with the energy to help what they need, which I don't know, but they do. But Teasel, I have had something similar. I had her back in, it's nearly 6 years since I've had her, coming up very soon now in the next week or so. And so I had her in the April, and it was August, 15th of August. And for I can't even remember why I did it, but I took a notebook. I've got this beautiful leather-bound notebook, which is Teasel's book. And all her training notes went in and everything, when I was doing Warwick stuff and everything, it was all in there, session 1, session 2, whatever. And I took it down to the barn, and it might have been I had it in the barn because of that. I can't remember. And there was a big lambing shed it was in. So she had a huge pen. And I just sat there and I wrote something like 6 pages of writing, which I didn't know what I was writing. When I read it back, it was like, time is but a human construct, and you can change forward and back. And I could, what? This is, where on earth did this come from? And I've still ponder on that whether being, because this has happened many, many times since, and I've actually been in the kitchen peeling potatoes, and I've had to put everything down and take a book down and go and sit with her, because the draw has been so strong. And I don't know whether it's being in her energy that allows me to find this information, or whether she is actually going, okay, mother, sit, pen, I'm just about to tell you something. Now, get this right, because I'm sure she's looking over my shoulder. Have you got it right? Because she does lick and chew. This is really the weird stuff, is that sometimes I'm writing and I'm sort of sitting there and I look at her and she'll lick and chew as much as say, yeah, you got that bit right. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm open to anything now. But there is some sort of, connection goes on. But
it doesn't really, I don't think it really matters.
Oh no, but it's my brain trying to work it out.
Is it from there? Yeah. Because quite often when I'm talking to clients, other things will come through, and if it's meant to come through, then I pass it on. It's it's more relevant to the person, but it comes via the horse.
Yeah.
And they will. Sometimes they will listen if it comes via the horse. If it was Uncle Albert that passed away, 10 years ago, they might not listen to him. But it comes. It's more about the message than where it's from.
Yeah.
For me, it's more that the message, because that message holds an energy form, and it's that goes to where it's needed, and allows what needs to happen.
Yay, that's so cool. So how long have you been doing this?
I think I started about, I don't know, about 15, 16 years ago. Yeah, that's when I used to belong to a group that we did meditations, and I have to laugh because whenever I've joined things like that, I'm a bit lazy. I don't want to meditate. I just want to go from A to Z. I don't want to go through all the middle bits.
Oh, that sounds so familiar.
And I'd be saying, oh, I don't want to meditate, you know, because you've got it again. It's structured. Anything structured, it's not good. But I loved it because we used to meet like-minded people, and I went for the tea and cakes because I love cake. So I went for the tea and cakes, and anything else was a bonus. And I met some lovely people. But yeah, so we used to have fun doing cards or, you know, candles, flower readings, whatever. But again, it's a tool. It's a tool. It's not. That's not where the information's coming from. It's you're channeling it, but it's a focal point. It's something.
Yeah.
And so people are more comfortable if you've got something. If you're saying it, it sounds a bit more scary sometimes. So I remember that I thought, I was thinking, right, I think I've got as much as I'm going to get where I'm going. But I think for what I want to do, I'm going to have to just go out on my own and just practice. So that's what I did. I just used to go sit in a field with a book and a pen and write down whatever came into my head. And I would be sort of just looking around. And if my eye was drawn to a horse, I would write down the colour of the horse and what came through. So I didn't know if it was from that horse, but that's my eyes were drawing me somewhere.
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10 times it was relevant to whoever I was looking at. But I'll tell you a little funny story. It was one evening we was doing a meditation. We was all getting ready to sit down. We was all having our cup of tea, and the lady said, "Oh, you know, let's get ready to start our meditation." And I was going, "Oh, I keep getting flowers. The word flowers or something, or I was getting a flower or something." She said, "Oh, it's we're going to do flower readings, lady. That's what it is." And I went, "No, I don't think it's that." But anyway, so we sat down and we was chatting, and it was like orchid. I was going, okay. So I was looking around thinking, is there an orchid in the room?
Yeah.
And I couldn't see anything. And I said, does orchid mean anything to anybody? And she was like, no. And they was carried on chatting. I'll condense this story. And the word orchid came again. I was thinking, okay, orchid. I'll acknowledge that. And then the word desert came. I was thinking, okay, desert. Okay, I acknowledge that. And I was going, desert, orchid, desert, orchid.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Desert orchid. And I was thinking, desert orchid, that's a horse. And then this vision of a white, this horse come flying past me.
Oh my God!
And I was like, oh my God, it's desert orchid. And now the teacher was going, no, it's not. It's the flowers. I was going, no. This is desert orchid. Yeah. This is desert orchid. And it was like, wow. And anyway, we carried on, and we had the evening. I went home and Googled desert orchid, and it happened to be the night we had this was the night he won his, was it the Grand National or whatever it was?
Yeah,
it was the night he won.
Oh,
so it was a centenary. But for me it was a sign to say, yes, that's what you need to do. You need to go out and practice. And it was like, I was so excited. And then but I met him quite a few years ago because he's smaller than you think.
Oh, right, yeah.
Actually, that's just come to me. I met him.
Yes.
But yeah, so it was a funny story because I was going, orchid, desert. I said orchid. And it was like, for God's sake, are you going to get this on war?
How much clearer do I have to be?
Yeah. Hallelujah, she's got it.
But
so that's how I started.
And that's where but that is such I so understand that, where there's something you cannot deny, you know, and it is like they're slapping you around the face going, desert, orchid, white horse, you know, and I so understand that you know, that's but where
I could have been swayed if I didn't believe that myself, if I didn't feel, that's the word, feel, that it was like, boom, because my tutor would say, no, you know, you're mistaken, it's this. I was going, no, I'm not mistaken. It's this. For me, this is what this is. And you have to be, I'm not sure if forthright is the right word. You have to trust, but execute what you believe.
Yeah.
Because you are the only teacher. When I say you, the universe is the energy that's flowing through you. And it's in you, in your head, so you can't, you can ask for help or guidance. And I have somebody that I go to if I have, for confirmation. If I've got a difficult one, I need confirmation. I know this, but so I never tell her anything.
Yeah.
And she gives me information. So I definitely know. But you have to believe what's here. And it's not about being right or wrong. It's just giving what you have with compassion, empathy, non-judgmental, with as much clarity as you possibly can, and no more and no less. You don't dress it up. You don't disguise it. You don't put it into a little box, and you don't add to it. You just give it as it is. And hopefully that's what I do.
Well, my experience has been such anyway, because the second, that other message where she was talking about the work and her time away, and it's about you settling in, and I mean everything just made complete sense.
Oh, I'm glad.
Complete sense, because it was, and that was the sort of message that I'd expect from her as well. In that, it wasn't, oh, my left foot's a bit sore and I think I need my green rug on, which, could be a message as such. But no, she tends to go to the esoteric. Sort of now we'll just sit back and look at the energetic modalities that we got here and blah, 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 whatever. I thought, because I look on her as my teacher in the sense that Midnight was the one that made me do stuff, because she just went, unless you do it right, we're not getting there. And that's how I ended up at that clinic, because I was looking for another way. And that's, when the magic happened. But with Teasel, she's much more, okay, I'm here, I'm going to teach you. And it's a much more gentle energy, a sort of a benevolent teacher. Quite a, she has to have quite a lot of patience, one should say. I was like, no, she still hasn't got it. Fair enough. We'll try it a different way. But yeah, I mean, I'm just fascinated why horses in particular are such teachers, especially at the moment. And I mean, I know it's, what do they say, that when someone brings an image into your head, like look for a blue car, that's every other car's blue, because you're looking for it. And I do think with a lot of the horse training out there now, maybe it's because we're looking for those energetic teachers, like Warwick and Leslie Desmond and Susan Fay and all of these, who are bringing forward a different way of being with horses. But I'm just fascinated because horses are that spiritual being. And like you said, that if you gave a message, that when you give a message through a horse, people listen. And I know Warwick says it as well, that because people are trying to help their horse, they'll go that extra mile. And they've said out loud, I wouldn't do this if it was just for my family. But because it's for my horse, and they'll go and match steps, and they'll go and stand and listen, like you said, and get connected. And then that follows on, and that changes them in the rest of their life as well. And I think it's marvelous and amazing and quite interesting that the horse is the catalyst.
And I think they're quite so when you're observing horses, when you're around horses, you start to observe yourself. Obviously most people know you can't if you go to a horse with lots of high energy, then it's like whoa, unless they're really so used to it, and they're just like the riders go ponies, you get excited kids, that's different. They're like yay. So you have to be accountable for how you're going to be, how your energy is, and it can change. And when you realize it, the more you play around with it, the more you see it within yourself. You can see the changes within your horses. But when you're in human mode, when I'm in human mode, it's like, oh, she's in human mode. She's not going to listen to me today. So she gives me a shift reminder. And she'll do things at her pace, and she will. So that was interesting when you said about you don't claim to be, you go in and heal. It's up to the individual. I can't remember how you phrase it now, but
yeah, it's up to the system to move
it's
itself.
up to the system. I have a friend who helped me very much get over an obstacle to get back on my, when I say get back on my horse, she's 20, I've had her since she's 4, and I can count on 2 hands how many times I've been sat on her. But it wasn't to do with riding, it was to do with my own blocks. But she's an animal communicator as well, so which is quite sweet. And she's always said to me, don't go, well, if you're doing energy with twos, don't send it to now, send it back to a past, send it to when she was a foal. So I was telling her about your philosophy on how you work, and I says it makes sense, Amanda, because she goes past that. I says, but that makes sense to me because you were saying to me years ago, you know, go back, don't just go to the now, go back. So she was using a different phrase, but she was probably getting the same information. That it's not that you're finding the source. It's
the reason, the cause.
The reason, because what we deal with is the symptom. Everything we deal with is the symptom, and sometimes, you know, it's okay, but it doesn't always have longevity. And it's not about. So when I go in touch with you, it's not about saying to you, "I want you to cure my horse." I want, you know, because there was a time when I desperately wanted to fix her, and she told me that I have to let that go. Because that was the pressure and the energy that was creating was having the wrong effect with her. And whenever I catch myself creeping back up to that level again, which is I don't by any means, but I, you know, Winter was
aware,
like, "Ooh, I'm not sure what's going on." Oh, well, I am, but you know, I have to take a step back and look at her as an outsider, sort of. But it's difficult because she's year round, so it is different. It is different. But you can do it. But it's not. Yeah, it is different.
No, I totally agree. Because with Teasel, where she's at now, you know, there's obviously been some long-standing stuff going on, and I've ridden her plenty. But you know, I've got to that point. I know she's not 100% right. And what was interesting was after I listened to Leslie Desmond's, who, you know, I'm blessed, she's a very good friend of mine, and she was talking to Warwick on his podcast. And there was something she said there where, that, you know, it was typical. I'm walking in the morning with the dog, and it always is then that I get insight. And it was suddenly I could see the situation with Teasel as an outsider looking in rather than being inside the equation. Which, you know, it's much more difficult to see a clear picture when you're part of the, I'm going to say problem, but you're part of the situation. And the message that came straight away was that Teasel is saying the answer is going to be found, that it's going to be there. And indeed, that's what happened. We, you know, trimmer came, different trim on the feet, everything was like, oh my goodness. And you could see Teasel going, yay, that's it, well done, that's right. And yeah, that was a really big one, actually. And the energy I feel within me when I get that insight is quite strong. It's like, whoa, oh my goodness, okay, I get it now.
It's like a light bulb moment, but you just, you just feel it.
Yeah,
It's not just your brain recognizing it, you just like goosebumps and
your whole system sort of goes. It's got it. So yeah, that's really cool. But it is interesting because years ago I did just for the hell of it, because I'll try anything once. I mean anything. And there was a psychic training course. Somebody I knew was doing it, and I went on it, and I total skeptic. Not about whether psychic stuff happens, but whether I could do it. It was like, yeah, right, okay. And we did the whole day work, and we did some meditation, and we did different exercises. And the last bit was where I think I can't remember if I was blindfolded, but I think I probably sat facing, and they sat someone behind me who they knew did not know me. And I was to do a reading on that person. And I can remember clearly, I sat there and there was like a little house, a little whitewashed cottage. And it was like, that's grandmother's cottage. And my brain was going, yeah, really? Really? Yeah, little house in the wood. Yeah, really? And then it turned into something about glasses that we wear and changing job and 2 people. I mean, that was the bare bones of what I picked up. And I turned around and it was a young girl. And I described what I said. She went, yeah, my grandmother does actually live in a little cottage in the village. And I'm like, okay, right, fair enough. And then it turned out that she and her friend were working together, and they both were moving to an optician's, changing jobs. And I mean, that was the moment I went, oh, shit. Oh, okay. I don't understand now. Because I was so, yeah, right, whatever. So I just think all of that information is out there. It's in the field, and it's whether we connect, and everybody has that different vibrational rate, that different connection, and that becomes their, forte.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I said I can't remember the exact scenario, but I was explaining to somebody that if so messages are going around, because like you said, there's no such thing as time.
Mm-hmm.
So the messages are going around, and it's like, oh, Ronnie's there. Let's try and get through her. Okay, so and I go, okay, something's coming through. A message comes through. So I have to be able to pass that message on to whoever that is. So whether it's visually in person, or through telephone, or through the internet, or whatever. So there's no point in somebody in Australia wanting a message if I don't know them, or I don't know somebody that knows them. However, that does happen, because you can be talking to somebody who knows somebody else, and the link will come in that way. And it's like, so as long as the flow can get to where it needs to go to.
Yes. Yeah. The message can get there. You'll pick it up.
It will get there.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I was going to say something else, but it's totally gone now. But anyway, Kathy, I know you've had an early morning and a long day.
That's fine. No, I'm totally enjoying myself.
Okay. So I don't know what's happening with questions. So I keep saying so.
Maybe nobody's got any questions.
Maybe they haven't. I mean, they can ask them later, but it doesn't really matter. So do you want to say what's coming up in your work? What exciting things have you got?
Well, there's quite a lot. I'm going to be starting doing, I hope this year, a course to teach what I do. Now, for a long time, I have denied that, in the sense that how can I teach anyone to be me? In the sense that I know what I'm doing now is me, but it's beyond that, because everybody is extraordinary. Everybody is unique. And I think, like you're saying, that the people, you find your path. So I think my job is to offer up what I do in certain sections, the connection, the energy, the intention, all of the different parts of it. And then if it's appropriate, people will find me. And they can become who they are, using those things. So it's not about teaching a modality as such. It's just about offering tools.
And just been told to say to you, it's coming full circle.
Oh, right.
What happened to you is coming full circle. So you'll be doing the same.
Now you've just made my hackles go up. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So that's sort of a major part, and I've really got to put my nose to the grindstone to actually sit and write the stuff, and there's a lot of information coming through. I get ideas every day, and oh gosh, yeah, there's that bit that I can do, and that bit. So I definitely think I'm on the right path like that. So yes, I mean, I'm out there. I'm hoping that when all of the pandemic-y stuff goes, that I can actually go out and do some talks in person around the country, and then maybe do some sessions while I'm there, with people. And I'm also thinking about, and I've done this, of actually working with somebody while they're riding their horse. And I've actually seen, I did it up in London a few years ago, and the lady felt the difference. So that's sort of come back to me. I mean, the thing with the work is, much like you're saying, that you can be working and all of these different messages are coming through because you're open and you're aware. When I work distance in particular, well, no, it doesn't make any odds, but sort of with one horse in the barn, we do call it buy one, get six free. Or I do,
Yes.
because you're working in the field. The others are going, oh, that's rather nice. And I've seen sort of a whole row of horses just go, which is really cool. So that's where I think I'm working with somebody pretty soon where I'm going to be constant, or sort of my intention will be on one of the horses, but the other horse and the person are going to be there. And I love that as well, because so often there is a group dynamic. That when you work in that way, there's a lot of balancing goes on dynamically as well as individually. Yes, so ebooks, I hope I'm going to be doing, the course, visits. Yeah, it's all out there waiting for me. I've just got to get my backside into gear.
So they're just saying to me now that obviously you've got to put something into context for people to be drawn to. But you'll know this anyway, but not to worry about the details, because that'll be taken care of. The bits on paper they're saying is important for drawing the people.
Yeah.
But the rest will okay. So I'm getting told to say, don't just look at one module. I'm getting two, three modules, something to do with combining 2 or 3. So just see what happens with that, where that takes you. Or
that, and again, that actually makes sense, because my idea being it's almost going to be mix and match. So there'll be a course, but anyway, I mean, that's minor detail. But thank you for that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. If it doesn't mean anything, that's fine. If it does, that's great.
No, but it's always, I always think something like that, there's something there, it wouldn't get said otherwise.
Well, thank you so much for tonight. It's been really interesting. I hope you get some good feedback from this, and I'm
just really grateful for the opportunity, and this work is my passion, it's my joy, it is my dharma. I've been reading about dharma, and it's definitely my dharma. And I thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome.
It's been a joy.
Oh, bless you. No, you're welcome. It's just like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
No.
And here we are chatting away. But I love it with synchronicities. There's no such thing as coincidence. There isn't.
Absolutely.
And what seems like time frame, what seems like months or years to progressing somewhere, in actual reality is like done. Thought done. That's it.
Faster than the speed of light.
So I just find it fascinating, and the more you learn, and like you said, there's lots of people doing similar thing, and they'll just have their own way of working, own niche on it, own way of describing it, but it all goes back down to the source, or whatever you want to call it. But thank you so much, Kathy. I hope you get a good night's sleep.
Pleasure. I will.
With those lovely lambs, sheep in the background.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We've been an absolute pleasure, and I will. I'll share this video with you, so you can do whatever you like with it. I'm getting tired now because I start going. I'm hungry. My tummy was rumbling, so I'm surprised you didn't hear that.
No, you heard my lambs, but I didn't hear that. You tell me you're
thank God
right.
for that. I'm like, oh my goodness. So we'll chat soon.
Wonderful.
I'm just going to take you out and say goodbye. So if you hang on a second, so I'm just going to put you in the room and just say
thank you.
Everybody. So thank you again to Kathy, and thank you for everybody that popped on and said hello. I hope that you've enjoyed this and you get some information. I've put a link on that you can contact Kathy through her website. I think I've put the link on. If you have any messages, once again, you can contact Kathy or myself on here or directly on Kathy's website. Have a lovely evening. I'm going to go eat now because my tummy says I need food, and catch up with you all again soon. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining this live tonight.